Hi, everybody.
Hey everyone.
So sorry we're getting started a few minutes late. We had some super uninteresting but very enjoyable technical difficulties on our side. So thank you for your patience. I'm Carl. I'm the Artistic Programs Manager at Playwrights.
And I'm Ashley. I'm the dramaturg at Playwrights.
We are thrilled to be connecting with you tonight. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of this. This is a incredibly disorienting, painful, scary time for a lot of people, and getting the opportunity to create community, even digitally, and find space together to celebrate things that we love and artists that we love and what we love about theater making, even though we can't make theater in the traditional sense right now, feels important to us and worth it. So hopefully we can connect to some joy together tonight, and you can use that as fuel to carry you through the next couple weeks, which are obviously very momentous. The POP program, just in brief, has been around for about 4 years. It's an opportunity to connect artists and audience members in a different way, to celebrate, process, and think about theater making in a new way. The hope being that, whether you're an artist or whether you have never considered yourself a maker of any kind, that when you come to the theater, you feel like you have the tools you need to be a part of the work and participate it generously and fully, which doesn't mean you have to love it, but we feel a responsibility to both our artists and our audiences to create space to enjoy the process together. Um, what else was I going to say? Pardon me while I check my notes. Cool. Right. The other thing I would just note is that Raja is not a playwright in the strict sense. Welcoming him this evening is a little bit different than some of the other folks that we've had with us, for our first digital series, which happened between April and June this year. And we are really excited about that. Raja is a choreographer, is a director, is an actor, performer, dancer, all sorts of roles in the theater. And we think the world of him and are excited to have him with us tonight and share him with you, and think about theater making in an entirely new way, even for us.
Amazing. Thanks, Carl. I'm speaking to you all from the ancestral homelands of the Munsee Delaware Nation and the Matinecock Chieftaincy. And I want to just take a moment to situate Playwrights Horizons with an acknowledgement that we developed in conversation with the Lenape Center. So Playwrights Horizons acknowledges that our theater, located on the island of Manhattan, is situated on land that is Lenape-Hoking, homeland of the Lenape. We pay respect to the Lenape peoples, Lenape elders, and their ancestors, past, present, and future. And as our theater's work and community extends beyond this island, we acknowledge that the Northeast is the homeland of many Indigenous nations. Playwrights Horizons pays respect to all Indigenous people who've stewarded this land throughout the generations and to their ongoing contributions culturally, intellectually, artistically, and spiritually. And because we're gathering digitally tonight, we wanted to give a shout out to Adrian Wong of Spiderweb Show, who sagely invites us to take a moment to consider the legacy of colonization embedded within the technologies, structures, and ways of thinking we use every day. So with that, I just want to say a little bit about the order of operations tonight. Raja is going to take the floor for the first 30 minutes or so, leading us through a presentation, and Carl and I will be off screen but floating nearby in case we need to pop in. But then we will fully reemerge to facilitate a Q&A for another half an hour or so. And the Q&A, there's a chat feature on the YouTube page. And so feel free to be chatting away in that during the presentation and to leave questions in there at any point. And our coworker Iman will be present in the chat and able to share those questions with us for us to then share with Raja. And so we probably won't be able to get to everything tonight, but we are going to do our best to keep things moving and answer as many questions as we can. And just a brief reminder that this event is being recorded, and we hope to release it down the line.
And then the last thing that I would just offer is that we have a wonderful person named Tracy with us this evening. She's experimenting doing some live captioning, which is new for us, and we're hoping that that can be part of our live programming moving forward. So it's a little bit of an experiment, but just wanted to shout out Tracy and thank you for being here with us tonight. I think that's it for our intro spiel. And we'd love to now welcome Raja, who's gonna sort of lead us for a little bit. Hi, Raja.
Hello.
Thank you for your patience as we jump through our technical hoops.
My pleasure.
So we're going to disappear, but we'll be here if you need anything.
Hey,
Floating.
magic of Zoom theater. Bye-bye.
Bye. See you soon.
Hello, everybody. I feel like I should do choreographically, I should be like, hello and welcome to Masterclass, which has nothing to do with this photo right here. Anyway, I'm super excited that you are all here. I'm excited to share with you some of the things that I think about in choreography. It's not often that I am even interested in giving what is called a masterclass. And at the same time, I also feel that if you haven't worked with me, you probably have no idea what it is that I do or how that I do it. So I thought that this would be an exciting time to share with you all about what it is that I do. But first, I just have some things to show you because I am utterly fascinated with Masterclass. So I'm just gonna show you two things, and I have a bunch of videos that I'll share with you all today, but I have some things I'd like to just put out there so that we can have in our discussion. The first is this incredible video of Natalie Portman's Masterclass. So
be free, make mistakes, try things. This is a job about your imagination. You're making a movie influenced by life. You're making a character influenced by a human, and you want to make it as human as possible. What is their desire? Desire is at the root of everything. I have not been to a traditional drama school. I've been working for 25 years, and I learned by doing, and I pieced together different things that are helpful for me that I want to share with you. Green screen acting is kind of the purest form of acting because you're inventing both what's outside of you and what's inside of you as an actor. We're gonna do a scene where I've just found out my boyfriend's cheating on me and I'm entering his apartment.
I'm just gonna stop.
You want to scour the space to see what you might use that would be emotionally relevant to help the camera catch that's being read. Get very close to the camera, take it.
I am having just a bit of a technical difficulty myself because I can't get to the thing. Okay, great. Let me pause. Great. So I'm gonna show you. All another video that I find fascinating, and hopefully you'll get some insights.
Release your inhibitions. Try things. Be crazy. This job is literally only about your imagination. You're making a character based on a human. You want to make this as human as possible. What is their desire? Desire is at the root of everything. I didn't go to a traditional acting school. I've been working in this business for 25 years, and these are some of the techniques that I've learned that I think will definitely help you.
So I'm just gonna stop that. what I find super fascinating about this like masterclass / parody of a masterclass is really kind of how amazing it is. What I find fascinating, and I've watched the Natalie Portman masterclass, and then I've watched all these parodies of the Natalie Portman masterclass. And what's fascinating is that there's actually obviously something true about what it is that she does, even though it seems completely foolish and completely arbitrary and completely so much like a joke. But when you watch the parody, you're like, oh, I guess there's actually something about what it is that she does that makes it appealing. That's why she's Natalie Portman and we're not. And the thing about that really fascinates me is the amount is like play. And I certainly feel like play and common denominators are things that attract people to theater. When they're watching something, they're like, oh, I know that thing, I know that behavior, I know what that person is thinking and doing because I myself can empathize. I know what it's like to have my body in those positions. And those are things that I look for, and those are things that I'm fascinated by. So I just wanted to like put that out there because I think there's something about the parody of masterclass or the parody of behavior or the parody of acting that actually invites play. And that's certainly something that I look for. I think of theater in its core and also in its broadest sense as culture. And culture is shared values and virtues and beliefs. And so I look for that in the work that I'm creating. And I don't know if many people know that I've had my own company. I have a company called The Feather Theory that I've had now since 2008. And I made a ton of work as a director and choreographer, and although not playwright, as a writer with that work. And so I have another video prepared that I think will give you some insight as to what I do with my company. In many ways, I think before I started working on Off-Broadway, I would think of my works as studies. And a lot of the information and a lot of the joy and a lot of the nitty gritty for what I'm interested in, I still do and have done a lot with my company, and I bring that to other places. So it's like my study hall. So I'm just gonna play this video because it sort of already articulates what my feelings and thoughts are, and it also gives you some examples of my work. So if you're all still here and interested to know more, I'm gonna show you some little clip from my company. Be right there.
So hard living with the things you do to me. My things are getting so strange.
There is a clear intersection between pop culture and empathy. Like, we as human beings should want, I believe, to be empathetic towards one another, to understand and to feel empathy, and it is becoming more and more difficult for us to do that. And I think the last place that anyone would think to look is pop culture, and I think it's the first place to look. Who's creating me? Is it art, television, movies, books that's creating me, or am I the thing that creates television, books, media? That kind of question I'm always asking myself. We learn so much when we make a work about ourselves and about the people we're around, and we realize that we're creating an experience for people to do the same thing, to come in and question, and to come in and maybe find some answers and help us find some answers, or help us find the next set of questions, and also to challenge what's real and what's not real, and to reflect. You know, I think that's a Warholian philosophy that we think we're just like, we need to reflect what we're seeing in the world so that people can think they're once removed from it, and then maybe they'll actually see it. It's popular culture, which means that our values, the majority of us feel like this is what I want to see on TV. This is what's important to me, like this music, this song, this TV show, this commercial. It's popularized because people are attracted to it. So that must say a lot about us. What is it about reality TV that makes us so addicted to it? Why is reality television like the most popular genre of television that exists? We're all wanting to know what is real versus what is not real. Why are love songs the most popular things? I entered with one set of questions, and we've gotten information about that, and then we've also realized that we're still circling back to this other question, which is like, how are we complicit in what's real and what's not real? And then it offers, in the end, a new set of questions to which, if we decide to make another piece, we're like, well, that's probably where we will start. I do make political work. Anything that my shows are about, I'm not very much interested in pointing to it. It's just there. I think there's a visual artist named Chris Martin, and he has a quote: "Art is like the finger pointing to the moon, and the best art is when the finger disappears." In our own lives, we're like, yes, I want to know what's behind the scenes. I want to know what's happening in other people's lives because I'm looking for empathy. I'm looking to know if what I think and what I feel is also the same thing that other people are thinking and feeling. How do we create our own world? Language, image, bodies, philosophy, law, and then dismantle it before the eyes of everybody.
So I hope that gives you some inclination for what my work looks like, and probably the most articulate that I could probably be around what I think about and why I make the work that I make. So another example, and I just have a bunch of videos to show you all because we're not in the same room. So I want to be able to offer you some just insight. And so I'm going to narrate over top of this video, this next video. This is something that I do all the time. This is like how I study. And when I'm in a room with a play that I'm looking at or a musical that I'm looking at, I often think about the behavior as volume. And I'll introduce this language into the room and I say, okay, let's not think about dancing, let's think about behaviors, how we move our bodies, how our bodies operate, similar to this Natalie Portman thing, right? Where she's like, I'm just trying to figure out the behavior that makes sense in this room. It's actually, I think, a very thoughtful and for me, a thing that I like to think about as like the base of choreography is behavior. So if behavior is volume 1 and then, high octane, swirly kicks, legs, and leaps is number 10, then a show is vacillating back and forth between those things. It's always important for me that the dancing or the movement come from the people that are there. So it means that their behavior wants to always feel like it's heading in that direction. And so when I'm watching television or I'm watching movies, I'm often watching the choreography of a scene. How are they behaving? How does, a head forward or a head back or a hand, wherever it be, how does that give us information? So for all of you to take a beat let's just like take a beat, everyone, watch this scene. This is a scene from like August, Osage County. And it's really just an opportunity for you all to, after hearing all of that information about how I think about work and how I think about the body and behavior, an opportunity for you all to look at this and see if you see it differently. Or see it through my eyes. When I'm watching TV or if I'm watching a play, I'm watching what is their behavior. And it's a fun thing for me to do. So you all can enjoy doing that as well. Hold on, it doesn't seem to have been going correctly. There we go.
I just came in quick to say, I think the sound might not be working on this clip.
There's no sound.
Great. Sorry.
So just for everyone's, there's no sound on that, and that is purposeful. And that is actually something that I do often, is I'll watch TV on mute and I'll just watch their behaviors, how they lean in towards each other, how anger exists like in the heart chakra or in the what do you call it, like the solar plexus, and how that gets people up or how that sinks people down, or how people lean in and lean out. Those kinds of things are super fascinating to me, and they're the baseline for how I begin to think about creating a work, or baseline for how I think about engaging in a process. Normally, and what's important to me is I'm not what some people would call like a plug and play choreographer. It's not something that I enjoy, where you just show up, make a dance and leave. I mean, I think that's very incredible and quite amazing. It's just not the thing that I like to do. I really like to be in the process from the beginning. I like to think of myself as a movement dramaturg. So is that, let's say later in that scene, there was going to be dancing or people turning, that it would start from the moment you see them. How do you see people engaging with their bodies? How do you see them touch themselves? How do you see them engage with other people? Those kinds of things are super, super fascinating to me. So I'm going to play another clip for you, just to give you an example of how the volume continues to shift upwards and upwards and upwards. So this is from something that I did at Playwrights Horizons. This is We Want to Know from A Strange Loop, which was at Playwrights Horizons last year. I don't know the date, the year before, 2019. And anyway, you'll see in this scene, what's exciting to me is giving these characters behavior, and it's all ever subtle. I'm not sure people would name it choreography, but in collaboration with Stephen Brackett, this was something that was like heaven to me, to create such simple and intense and emotionally charged and character-driven behavior that then on the flip becomes choreography, of course, because we ask them to repeat it. We ask them to do it again and again, and it becomes sort of like fodder or like lifeblood for the performance as it goes through. Once we start developing behavior and the ways that people use their clothes, etc., it carries through a performance, and that for me becomes incredibly exciting. So the next clip we're going to watch is We Want to Know, which is from Michael R. Jackson's A Strange Loop, which was at Playwrights Horizons in 2019.
Come on, son. What's the 411?
We want to know what's going on in New York. We want to know what's going on in your life. With people there living any which way, and to heck with what the B-I-B-L-E say. We want to know what's going on in New York. Excuse me. We want to know if you've been chasing your dream. Cause after what me and your dad went through to send your black booty to NYU, it appears you'd be just running around and without any direction. If that's what you really wanted to do, then why didn't you just stay here?
Because you're selfish.
Every time we call you up, you just claim that you done made some connection.
You so full of doo-doo, your eyes is brown.
You can lie to yourself if you want, but you can't lie to me, dear.
Every time we call, you say you'll be off writing musicals, but I'm like, what the heck kind of music you be writing?
Probably sound like that white girl music you used to listen to and try to hide from me and your dad when he was in high school, don't you? You ain't up there in New York thinking you a white girl with your musical theater writings, is you?
Because every time we ask, you just say you be writing about life.
And I'm like, life? What you know about life?
You ain't but 25 years old.
Almost 26.
You gonna turn 26 on the 26th.
But I don't care if you 26 or 126. I did all the work to birth you, so now it's time for you to pay back. I got a job for you.
You're running around here with an MFA, so now you're gonna write me a gospel play.
Cool. So again, other example of just all of that behavior, ingraining that in those characters from day one in rehearsal until then and after is really what excites me and drives me as a choreographer, as a movement dramaturg, as a director, as someone sitting in the audience watching that behavior. So now I'll show you just a couple of other clips. Another clip is from a show of mine that I did at the Kitchen. And this again is this, I guess you'll see my fascination with like muting or just watching how people behave. So what you should be able to see in this clip, and the reason why these performers are in morph suits is because as a piece of choreography, my interest was in building these dynamics and interpersonal relationships with the characters in a way that you weren't worried about their race, you weren't worried about their gender, you weren't worried about their facial expressions, but just in the way that they spoke and how they gestured toward one another. And so in this clip, you might not know it unless you saw the show 2 times in a row, but these performers have their movements choreographed. So here is just another example, and from my work in particular. This is called The Love Episode, or Another Fucking Warhol Production. And this production was essentially, well, the clip that you'll see is essentially the writer's room of an SNL episode that never existed.
It's just not funny. Like, this is just shit. Like, what? I don't...
What?
Why do we have to tackle love stories? I mean, I get that it's February and I get that our episode falls on Valentine's Day, but to make each sketch some idea about love seems just too big a Twix to swallow.
Really? A Twix?
Yeah, like seriously.
You know what? I kind of like this, you guys. I think that it would really challenge us to find new ways to talk about love. I love love.
We know.
Oh, God.
I just pulled up this article from Psychology Today, one of the most trusted online sources, and it says to love is one of the most important things that a person can do.
Really, the most important?
You don't believe that?
No.
All right, hear me out. Number one, the most important thing that parents can do for their kids is teach them to love, which then, of course, leads me to number two.
Buy them a coat?
Number two, the most important thing that partners can do for their loved ones is be a great cheerleader, which I think is a really excellent piece of
flexible and
advice.
hot.
I don't mean literal. Anyway, how about this? Love yourself.
Oh,
you are
I know.
good enough.
Let's do an episode on
Everyone
war.
can relate to that. You know, life without love is just tolerable, but finding the love wherever it is really the only way to truly experience life to its fullest.
We can do an episode on
Again,
love
beautiful.
through war.
Sarah, I was kidding.
But why? I think you can.
No,
take a
if
really
we do an
interesting-
episode that looks at love through war, that'll just romanticize it. Like against the backdrop of this thing, love emerges? No, that's just another way to sensationalize and justify horrific acts, Sarah.
Really? You do watch this TV show, don't you? I mean, that's never stopped us before. When the fuck did you get all moral compass?
Okay, guys, calm down. I think this is just a Hollywood cheap trick sort
Oh,
of thing.
no, I totally disagree. I don't think it's Hollywood or television or film or even books. I think that love is a part of life, you know? It's a part of,
This is
it's
so
a part of,
gross.
like,
You're
it's
thinking
a,
storytelling,
Yeah,
but-
storytelling.
Funny.
Storytelling.
Right, it is storytelling. And if you look at stories back in the day, you know, like Grimm Brothers and Shakespeare, like, those stories weren't all like...
They're not American.
Okay,
Right.
not American.
Right, but America
America.
is a very romantic place. The whole thing is based on romance.
Whereas England has a history of nobody being in love and nobody fucking.
Right.
And no freedom. I was gonna say much more tragedy.
All right. America is the la land of freedom and opportunity. You know, there's like this power of the family unit, right? And the power of you can fall in love and you can also fall out of love, but you can still have sex and make millions of dollars and then give that money to your children and create a dynasty.
Wait, is
and
this
then just
really
get
about love?
No.
Right, why an entire episode based on love? It's
The
just not-
people need the romance. This is the love episode. It's not Nick Jr. I think that we need to use this love episode as an opportunity to showcase the love story because that is a part of the history of Hollywood and television and American culture, and I just think that we should celebrate that.
No. You guys, I think there's a better opportunity here. Like, let's think about how people are getting themselves in love today, right? So you can swipe left or swipe right, and you could fuck someone in a bathroom, and then you can fall in love with that person and get married.
That's true.
That's beautiful. I mean, love is just not like it was 10 years ago.
Right, but then our challenge is how do we make this episode about love funny?
I think that is funny.
Right, I think you have a point there, Sarah. You know, there is nothing funny about love. Like, we are constructing something that a lot of people will watch, and we're also very clever. You know, and a lot of what we do here seems to just go over people's heads. So why?
So there's enough of that. So yeah, these are things that I'm fascinated with. This behavior. So I thought I would tell you, I'll just give you 2 more examples of things, which is like what influences this. And I have to say there are 2 particular choreographers that I learned about as a child that influenced me a great deal to think about behavior in the body. One of those incredible people is Bob Fosse. So this is a clip from The Little Prince, and it's just to bring you again closer to these ideas of like looking at behavior as choreography, which I think this man has been a master of. So here's that.
Good afternoon.
You're talking to the wrong end.
You're a funny animal. You're nothing but a tail. Where's the rest of you?
I'm not an animal.
What are you?
What am I? I'm a snake.
I'm enchanted.
Well, you should be.
You're cold and slimy.
Thank you. It runs in the family.
Could you tell me what I've landed on?
Yes. This sunny section of the solar system is called the Sahara.
The name of this planet is Sahara.
No. This simmering spot of singing sand is called the Sahara. The whole silly, stupid, smelly sphere is called the Earth.
Oh, good. I thought I'd come to the wrong place.
Oh, you have. Listen, you look like a nice fella. Why don't you take off your sword and stay a while. You seem like a smart, sensible sort. Why did you swing down to this sorry, sleazy swamp?
I'm trying to learn something.
I see. Well, sir, this speck in space is a scholastic sewer. All that you can learn here is sorrow. Sorrow. If I were you, I'd scram.
I can't. My flock of birds
Right.
have flown away.
Stop. Great. So there's that. As you can see, Bob Fosse, just in that small clip, just a master of taking an animal or taking an idea and really putting it into the body unabashedly. And you get it. Like, it's legible, it's clear, it's clean, and quite frankly, inspiring. Another thing I want to show you all, and this is from choreographer Jerome Robbins, and we're getting into the more broader sense of like choreography. And what excites me about the piece that I'm going to show you now, just a small clip of, is just his mix of the pedestrian while there's also the virtuosic, which is something that's super, super, super important to me, is how do you do virtuosity with something that is pedestrian, with movement that anybody can do? And this piece, which is called Glass Pieces by Jerome Robbins, is a combination of that. So here is that. So what happened again? Sorry, one second. So like you can see in that work, and the thing that is so, so, so exciting to me is how you get people, right? How you organize people. And a lot of the language that I believe Jerome Robbins used and Bob Fosse, which I use as well, is like, this is information that you all already have in your bodies. Like, let's start there. I haven't been a person that's like, I'm gonna develop my own technique, because really, as people and as humans, the information that you have, walking to the store, opening doors, going to sleep, getting up, sitting in chairs, pouring coffee, all of that behavior is choreography. And that is used, when it's used well, in musicals or in plays. It really makes you as a performer, I think, feel closer to yourself. And that, I think, bridges this information with audience to you. And then there's a complete other direction, and this is the last clip I'll show, and this is from a work of mine called Tropico, and it's again about extremism. So if we are familiar with pedestrian behavior, et cetera, growing that, using that pedestrian into the virtuosic, what would be the opposite? Like, what could we do in television and film that we don't do with our bodies, that we can't do with our bodies? And so in this clip, which is from Tropico, I really wanted to understand slow motion, right? Like, how do you, as a human figure, understand the micro movements that are in your bodies, in your fingertips, like in your armpit, in the back of your neck? How do you get closer to that sensation and that energy to lead you into a whole new world of being and again, sensation? So this would be the opposite end of that as well. And hopefully after this one, you'll sort of get the full picture of pedestrian movement, of behavior, watching television on mute, moving that muted behavior up a little bit into choreography, as we saw, and We Want to Know, and then seeing how that's used with large groups of people on a larger scale, which is using dancers and using material from techniques, but then also using the pedestrian so as that the world feels akin to us. And then lastly, the last point is this, which is going to the extreme, doing sort of the impossible or trying to create the impossible in order to inform our bodies of what more we can do. So with that, here is a clip from Tropico. I'll also just say, if you all can hear me, that on this video, it looks like they're moving so fast, and in live performance, it's incredibly slow and almost easy. Gonna stop it there. Gonna stop it there. So friends, that's kind of the jam. That's kind of like giving you all the stops, giving you all the things that I think about when I go into a room, and what fascinates me as a choreographer, director, dancer, performer, viewer, and also what I try to elicit from the collaborations that I'm a part of. What is the most extreme? What is the most pedestrian? How do you meet people where they are? How do you develop this system of thinking of choreography as behavior, and that has a volume that at once is what we know and is at one end something nearly impossible. So that's that. I'm curious, I can't see any of you, so I don't know if people have fallen asleep or have gone to bed or are completely riveted and want to ask questions, but I am curious at this moment to sort of engage with you all. So I'll invite my friends Carl and Ashley back, and then we'll get some of your questions in so we can chit-chat.
Hi,
Roger,
thanks for having us back.
So amazing. I'm riveted.
We've got one for Riveted. Fantastic.
Yeah.
True for Riveted and my boyfriend over there too.
That's great. Here we go.
Folks watching on YouTube, I invite you to type any questions that you have into the chat. But to just get us started, Raja, I was so enthralled by every single video that you showed. And then thinking specifically about the Bob Fosse one and the Jerome Robbins videos, I'm so curious about how you started seeing behavior and pedestrian movement as choreography. Like, did you start as a dancer and then it was about like taking the language of dance and seeing it in the everyday world, or was it like from the other way around? Or I just wonder if you could talk about like how you began to see movement in that way.
Yes, and thank you for that question. I would say that for me, it was a little bit of like the other way around, which is to say, like, I think like I'm kind of a person, as you can tell, is like very sort of energetic, and I find myself to be like the like da, 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 I'm writing a piece of paper, I'm drinking some water, like everything kind of was dance to me, and I actually didn't think that I was gonna ever be trained in that way. So I was always excited about like walking home from school or like no one being home, and I was like gonna like make something and make a dance out of that. And it wasn't actually until I had like gone through high school and like gone through like musical theater training there and then and dance training there, and it wasn't until I got to college that I got back to like the behavior stuff as being an okay language to create movement from. And like once I got that permission back, I was like, whoa, like I've got like the whole world now. And there was though a moment in middle school where I saw Bob Fosse's Steamed Heat, which is I think that nice like borderline between being completely like behavior and also choreography, and that like got me hooked to join the dance like program in school.
Cool. So I have a question from YouTube. What draws you to a project? How did you get involved with A Strange Loop, for example?
Well, those are two different questions, I'll say. I think what draws me to, I think people who are interested to work with me for an earlier part of my work so far has been like, that draws me, because I'm like, if you want me to come into your room, that means you're wanting something very specific. It's not like, again, I'm not like a person who I think people are like, oh, I want some like, I need 100 fan kicks in this, although actually I would enjoy doing that. But I don't know, but if someone's interested to work with me, I assume that they're interested to work in the ways that I work. And that is exciting to me when someone is interested in collaborating in that way. And I think now my interest is like, what's the work that has to be made? And I get excited about answering that question, like what work has to be made and where can I find it? And what drew me to A Strange Loop, for example, I think was a combination of those things. I think many people knew that Michael was like looking for a collaborator, Michael and Steven, and they were like, I don't know, you know, having seen work of his around, specifically concerts of A Strange Loop, they're like, there is someone who I think you should meet, who I think would really enjoy this work and kind of take on this work. He's interested in queer work, interested in like character building. And I think likewise, people are like, Raja, you have to see this, like you have to hear this work. It's just so wild and bizarre, and it's about pop culture, and it's about like the personal, and it's clashing, and it's that stuff that's like never been heard of, that stuff that's like impossible. And so people were yabbing that to me, and people were yabbing that, I believe, my understanding, to Michael and Steven. And so when we got together and had a conversation, it was like, oh, we speak a similar language, or at least we're interested in uncovering some of the same impossibility. And that idea of working like with an ensemble who are all thoughts that have to have the same language but also be individual. I guess for me, that's like a very downtown like way of thinking, is like, well, this is a concept, and playwrights being that place where like downtown meets Broadway. It's pretty exciting, you know, adventure.
This next question is a little bit kind of building off of that, but somebody is wondering, how does your process change when choreographing for characters that other people have written versus creating your own pieces and concepts?
Yeah, I think it doesn't change much. It just sort of starts at a different place. I think for me, when I'm developing a character, developing a show, it's actually more conceptual. So it's an idea of like, oh, you know, what would it mean to be like, for Tropico, I was like, what would it mean to like be these cartoon characters that are like amalgamations of different pop popular culture things. And so like that's the starting place, but then at some point they become characters, and then I treat those characters like, okay, how do we understand their behavior? What questions do I ask them? How do we turn that up on volume? And if I'm working with someone else, it's like it's already there. So I'm like, oh, okay, like these characters already existed, but then here are the people who are going to play them. So how do I get to know the people who are going to play these characters versus knowing about what these characters are written on the page? And how do I help to bridge that gap between watching this person and their behavior in the room versus what I think the playwright or director wants from what's on the page or from conversations with them. And then once I bridge those things, then it's like, how do I use that as a starting point to increase volume so that at once it's behavior and then at another point it's choreography.
A couple questions about the intersection of dramaturgy and choreography, and perhaps how you, when you're wearing your choreographer hat, how you might collaborate with a dramaturg.
Well, I have to say I'm fascinated by dramaturgy, and I'm fascinated. Dramaturgy for a choreographer, I believe, is logic. So it's for me, it's exciting to have that partner in the room, because you get logic. You're like, oh, well, this is historically where this comes from. This is what the work is teaching you. Like, this is what we learned from this character in scene one and their trajectory. And so how can that be woven into their movements per se, if I'm working as a choreographer? And if I'm working as a director and a choreographer, then it's like the best of all worlds, because it's like, oh, we get to decide those things and direct them and choreograph them. And as a choreographer, you're playing with like, okay, I'm just gonna like insert this moment in there, and I'm gonna relate. It's like webbing, like, oh, so this is historical in the world or historical in the work, and how does that pull itself forward and through? So the interactions and the conversations and with a dramaturg is all about elevation and deepening at the same time. Like, we're going to take this as far as it can go, and we're going to understand it as much as we can at the same time. It's welcoming.
This is kind of a zoomed out version of that question, but what do you think the dance and theater communities can learn from one another? And how can we continue to make space for one another in those performance practices?
You know, that is a very good question. And, you know, I have to say, I've had quite the bit of struggle as a choreographer director coming up in the world. And that's because oftentimes people would say to my work, like, oh, this is theater. And I would be sort of like pushed away because it was like the dance world. And then I would try to do work in theater, and they were like, this is dance. And then I would be like pushed away. And like, so I have ever been on that line of like dance, theater, dance, movement, text, etc. And I think what we could learn from each other is that like we're all trying to do the same thing, which is to tell stories and to do that by the best way possible. And I think like there's perhaps an unspoken desire for hierarchy or something like that that if we could just eradicate that, I think we would find that there's so much to exchange from one another and so much to use and to develop and to strengthen with both.
When you're creating something from scratch, do you start with a focus on movement and behavior and then relate it to a story or a character? Or is it the other way around? Do you start with a story or a character and then discover how it lives physically?
It depends. I think what you find after you have been making work for some time is that it just depends on what the project is. When I first began making, when I think about my first work, I'll say that it was about like the first work that I feel like is the work that was about behavior. It was really about like, oh, I wanna understand how my body operates in this way. And then there are times where there's an idea where I'm like, oh, this is about 7 people and how these 7 people come together. And so it's really just about their interpersonal relationships. So let's get people in a room and give them these character traits and watch them behave and watch them play that out. Or it's like, oh, we have a story already. Here's a story. It's about this. So let's put that out there and then develop over time how the behavior responds to the telling of that story.
This next question kind of goes back to like your interstitial place between multiple forms and genres. So this person says, Raja, I adore your work. Thank you for sharing your time with us. I'd love to hear about how your literature work, QAM, intersects with your stage work in dance and theater and more.
Great. Well, this is exactly I'm at the point in my life where it's all coming together in this way, whereas I have been interested in developing a writing practice, and I was lucky enough to be invited to be a part of the Queer Art Mentorship Group. And my mentor is Kate Bornstein, who is a writer, trans activist, performer. And with her, I started developing a series of essays titled "Who Gets to Tell Whose Story?" One of those essays, which will be a part of Playwrights Horizons magazine. Boo, boo, boo. Nice plug, but also true. And so I started working on a collection of essays about storytelling and about who we are and how who you are determines or not what kind of stories you can tell. And at the same time, I had begun wanting to reimagine this movie Dog Day Afternoon. Maybe you all know it, maybe not. And that was attempting to create a performance at the same time. So I'm writing these essays and I'm creating this performance, and the performance has a concept, it has text, we're rewriting text, and at the same time, it's constantly being reframed. Particularly the choreographic challenge for me in the development of this work is that ideally we would make, this is gonna get real meta, y'all. I'm a downtown experimentalist. Ideally we would have made like a documentary, right? But I'm like, well, this documentary is on stage. So what are the rules of documentary or cinema verite, and how do those translate choreographically on stage at the same time that I'm like writing? So I'm writing these essays and I'm understanding perspective. I'm recreating a work of literature that already exists. I'm reimagining literature that already exists, and then trying to reframe it by giving myself a choreographic challenge. And so we're in the middle of that process right now. And for me, it's exciting. For me, it's exciting to have the knowledge of, oh, like this is how story works. This is how theater works. This is how choreography works. And when you trade and this is how documentary work, when you trade those languages, when you say like, oh, well, these are words that are used in documentary, and here's how I'm translating this into choreography, it opens up world that is just beyond. And I think this is my point or like I want to remake the point of what I said before. The reason why I have a company is, for me, it's still study. So like, I don't believe, unfortunately, that, you know, if I were working on a play that existed already and I like had an idea about translating text, I wouldn't really have the time or space in that room to do that. If I was like, oh, I have this idea about like documentary, I want to like, I'll flip this up. I don't have that. So my company is really, for me, a home for me to study, to really study choreography. And what gets exciting is when I get to take the process or the result of that study and then apply it to other forms or other plays or other mediums.
Is there a specific challenge you can think of that sticks out in your mind as being particularly difficult? And if so, how did you overcome that? You know, either sort of larger scale in your career or on a specific project?
Yes, I'll say specifically on a project, I think I'll say that I never prepare anything before I go into a room. And I'm like, I'm embarrassed to say that out loud, and it's also true. I don't come to a room prepared. And that's partly because I don't know how to prepare, but also it's kind of like against what I do. My interest is in building choreography based on the people who were in the room. It's never like I am a style and I am a formula that you have to recreate. I think that's a different, I think that exists, and that's great, but it's not something that I'm really passionate about. But I think I've had to learn how to work as fast as if I were creating if I had come into the room with 64 8 counts created. Like I have to work that fast. And that is a super challenge to any room I walk into, and they're like, great, you're gonna choreograph, great, this is a musical, great, go. And I'm like, okay, like I've got to get to know people, I've got to build choreography, and it's got to be set by the end of the day, or like by the end of the rehearsal period. And I'm coming in just kind of, I know the music, I know the idea of the direction, and I have to grapple with that a lot. And hope that I'm trusted as a collaborator, that process will be trusted. That's hard. That's a particular challenge. And I think I mentioned one sort of my career-wise, which is like building multidisciplinary work and then sort of like having to name it, like this is theater or like this is dance. That has been particularly and continually challenging.
Related to how you work with people in the room and also to this like the multidisciplinary challenge, how do you approach theater actors with movement ideas as opposed to dancers? And is it different, or do you use the same approach?
I really try to work with everyone the same, actually. It's something where I'm like, I know sometimes people are like, I'm a dancer. And then there are people who are like, I have never danced. Like, don't give me dance steps. And I think what is important to me is to like find the place where everyone is neutral, where everyone is like, oh, okay, this is just behavior. Like we all know how to pick up a glass. Like, and once I start there, then I work in layers, and those layers aren't across the board. So it's like, oh, this person knows more about movement, so I'll give them more to do. This person doesn't know a lot about music, but they're eager, and now they feel comfortable exploring, and so then I'll give them more to do. And then it's a constant shift and pull in that. Like I'm just certainly like a layerer. It's like I get my foundation, and then I add. I'm the choreographer that's like, during tech week, I'm like running around the stage every time there's a 5, and I'm like, okay, so try this time. Don't forget, remember that, try this. And it builds over the course of time. Excuse me. I also talk really fast.
Okay, this is a great question. Someone who identifies as a freshly graduated director wonders if you have any words of wisdom for a young queer making original physical exploratory work.
Words of wisdom? Yeah. I need some words of wisdom. I feel like whoever you are, you probably got all of the wise stuff, and I wish you would tell me. However, I don't know. Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard not to say all the things that I think you might expect to hear, which is like trust yourself, which is like stick to your integrity, which is like follow your interest, like all those things I imagine you know already. Person out there who's freshly graduated. So I'm trying to think of something wise.
Is there something that if you could sort of like time travel or like send a message to yourself from 10 years ago, is there anything that you would share from the future?
No one cares. And literally no one cares. And hopefully that is like a permission slip to do whatever you want. People pretend they care, but they don't care. So like, just do what is important to you. Literally no one cares. Figuratively, no one cares. Absolutely no one cares. And you can't make them care, but you care about what it is that you do, and that's what you should be doing. And I believe that.
That was amazing. So another question is maybe related to Nobody Cares, but so you've worked a lot in the nonprofit theater world and off Broadway, and are you interested in moving into the commercial sphere? Do you think commercial theater is interested or cares about the type of work that you do?
I think I have moved into the commercial sphere a bit, and I don't think that people care about what it is that I do, but I do think they find it interesting. I don't think they know what it is that I do, but I think that the fact that I'm talking to you all right now, to whoever is out there, I think people are catching on, or people have an interest in what it is that I do and how I do that. I certainly am not the only person who does what I do. I think I have an approach that is particular to me, and I'm fascinated by that. And I think the collaborators who I collaborate with are fascinated by that. And it has been a joy to bring that to the commercial sphere. I don't know if I feel like the commercial sphere is my home, but it's exciting to walk into those rooms and have a completely different perspective and language, and to share that. And no, people haven't been unwelcoming. Maybe a little confused, but not unwelcoming.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I think maybe that's great for tonight.
Yay.
Thank you so much for your generosity and sharing your work and spirit with all of us. It's really a privilege.
Absolutely. I feel grateful to be able to share what it is that I do. I hope it has met you all out there with some fresh eyes. I hope you'll see work a little bit differently now. I think that's my hope. And I've had such a pleasure yapping at myself on screen, wishing that we were all in the room together. And also thank you both for inviting me, and thank you, Carl, with our little glasses.
Oh yeah, Raj and I have the same glasses. We felt it was important for everyone to know that. And Ashley, we're almost there. We're close.
We're cousins.
Yeah.
So thank you both for inviting and holding space. And if anyone has questions outside of this, please reach out. I'm available.
Yeah. Do you want to share like a website or Instagram or anything like that?
Yeah, my website is thefeathertheory.com, and that's spelled THE. Wait, I'll type it and then you can copy and paste perhaps. thefeathertheory.com is my website, and you can find me at Raja Feather Kelly on the Instagram, or The Feather Theory on Instagram. And yeah, those are probably the best ways to be in touch. There's like a contact form on the website if you want to, and that goes directly to me. So you've got that.
Very cool. So thank you again. Thank you everybody for being here, being part of this tonight. As Raja said, it's a little weird. We're all in different spaces. We're sort of just staring at screens, but creating an energy field of sorts, whether you're here tonight, whether you're watching this later, 3 months from now, it's cool to be in community, even in a strange, faraway way. We have 2 more masterclasses that are scheduled that you could sign up for right now. Jacqueline Backus will be joining us on Monday, November 9th at 7, and then Heather Christian will be with us on Monday, November 16th at 7. So you can sign up for those at phnyc.org/pop, and we'll do a couple more this year too, and we'll announce those soon.
And the very last thing is that if you're at all inclined to support Playwrights Horizons and the POP program, we'd be so grateful. You can visit phnyc.org/donate or text POPPH, POPPH to 44321. And also, if you want to share any reflections or insights or questions about your experience tonight, we'd so love to hear from you. So you can write to Carl and I at pop@phnyc.org. And we hope you and your loved ones are taking care and staying safe. And we can't wait to see you eventually at some point back on 42nd Street. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Raja, for showering us with your wisdom.
Thank you, Raja.
Pleasure, my pleasure.
So we're going to disappear. I'm going to put up a slide. It'll have some info about donating or other info. So thanks again, and everybody take care and stay safe.